Here we go, and it is time for another sprint zone. This one's for 11/12/2024, and we've got a good crew out here today. Sun is out, life is good, and I've taken to using my new skill set to label a few people, and I may do that or have done that throughout this video. If you do not get labeled at some time in the next year, you can consider yourself to be an NPC. So I won't go into the whole thing and label people right away and say NPC. You can figure out like who you are. I don't want to insult people directly. That's just wrong. In any case, I'd like to thank Scott Palia for his video. And you can see Scott was waiting up the road. Seems that there are several of us that do the TTH ride before this as a warm-up. And they meet us en route. And that is what Scott has chosen to do these days as he's moved up into the big leagues. And so there's lethargy today. I'm on my gravel bike. I figured I would try that out with the Pathfinder Pro tires on, like they're 44s. A little more than I need, but I figure, it's, November. And in the ancient days, we actually wouldn't even have the sprint zone. It used to be we would just work together and do tempo. But the times, they change, and you got to give the people what they want. And if you just want to do tempo, well, that's what you can do. In any case, the speeds are rather pedestrian as no one really wants to do any work yet. They know who the big men are, and everyone wants to just sit in and kind of shop wheels at this point. Reasonably organized. It looks like Brian at the front, looking reasonably strong, keeping, what can I say, 17 miles an hour. And I'm looking at my power, 32nd, 211, 212, and Scott's at 228. So, yeah, it's not game on, but it's not exactly a walk in the park either. Everyone's still sitting in and pretty happy, and I'm very happy to be back here because I'm just biding my time. The gravel bike is heavy, and the more time I can save, the better. So Brian comes off the front, and then Scott follows him into the center of the road. I'm like, I don't really like that. They come that far out into the road. I mean, yeah, there was nobody behind us, but it just seems like it was a little unnecessary at this point. But, that's just my thing. It just becomes too much of a habit to take over the road, and that's what I don't like. It just, people get race brain, they get groupthink, and then just all over the place when they don't need to be. But when the speeds right now are only 16 and people are just kind of like, I'm not going up there, I'm not going up there, I'm not going up there, I'm certainly not going up there. And so you get that kind of a thing. And that's maybe what's good to get some of the people up front to string things out because it keeps people from bunching up like that. Then you see Michael coming up front, waving of the hand. And that's something I just don't like. I don't mind taking your hand off to like point out stuff, but waving people through in the sprint zone, like they can't figure that out. I'm sorry. I've seen, it's my pet peeve. Like, just don't do it. Wiggle your elbow. Yeah. Enough said about that. So, looks like Mr. Lawyer up at the front looking at, he's off the front. Scott has not chased him down yet. Still 25 miles an hour. So it's starting to get game on here. Got Mark behind me, looking strong in the blue, pedal coast. So you can see that his bike is pretty efficient there. Scott off to the side there, wanting to come back. And you can see how he looks. He's looking back, and he wants to get a slot here. He looks over. Ian does not give him the respect that he deserves. And we had a little conversation like, Scott, you want in? Yeah. And there's a thumbs up there. That's courtesy here. If you are riding above your station and the big men that are doing work are coming back, courtesy dictates that you let them in. There needs to be some kind of etiquette there. Otherwise, they get pushed all the way to the back, and that's just wrong after they've done work. And I've seen that. A lot of people just out for themselves. And too much out for themselves to the point where they'll bone the guys that did some work. And up front looks like an attack by Wolfgang. Going hard up there, and JC on his wheel. And Scott covering this move nicely. Wattage is way up, and the gap is beginning to open there. And then you saw Danny coming through there. And there's a danger man, and here come the breakaway team working well together. And you see Ron there. And notice, of course, Ron has been labeled. This means he is designated not an NPC. Greg going through there, looking strong. John following him, looking reasonably strong there. And Ian starting to fall off the wheel here just a little bit of struggle. And I'm working hard. I can see up over 450 watts to push that gravel bike into the slipstream of those in front of me. And it seems like I'm just barely hanging on here. And I was hurting. And I'm looking at my heart rate here. 175, 174. I am like at my limit. And there's not much draft back here. It's a slight wind off our left shoulder. But just enough that if you're sitting in it and you don't have full draft, it's difficult. And my heart rate's climbing at 170. But you can see even Scott up front behind JC at 161. And interesting that their heart rates are very close, except one's out front doing work and the other one isn't. JC looking smooth out there in the most aerodynamic position. As we see, I am back with the rabble, the secondary group, hoping to maintain contact, hoping that at some point we will be able to bring this all together again. But I'm not certain how well people were going to work here. And here's one of these inflection points here. We passed that road, and this is just enough of a grade to make you have to earn it. And I had a little bit of momentum here, as I recall, and I was coming up, and then I look in front of me, and there's Greg. And all of a sudden, my momentum just stopped. And so Mark was able to come through here, but it takes some work to bring that pig of a bike, carbon as it is, but it's still a gravel bike, up to where it should be. And there's a gap here. And now my heart rate's at 177. Yeah, 178, which was the max. So I am just totally gassed here at this point. Scott's out front looking good, and looking at my wattage, it's even higher than Scott's at 30 seconds. Mine's at 290, his was at 228, which kind of just shows you what it takes to push that pig there. Yeah, my wattage of 30 seconds is up there with the big men, but what can I say? So I back down a little bit, trying to recover with a heart rate at 170 or whatever. Yeah, we are at threshold. Marcelo looking strong there, Greg looking strong there on his wheel, and we were almost in contention. And looking up front, it looks good. It looks like Mr. Kennedy is up there in third position, as those guys are just a ramming and a thumping. JC pushing the big numbers up there, just ramming and a thumping, just going hard. Yeah, this is what I like to see. And Scott's in an excellent position here. Third place is really good, and you can see how efficient JC must be, because looking at their 30-second wattages, only like 20 watts or so apart. Damn. Not only is JC strong, but he is aerodynamic. Good thing there. And looking in the upper right hand there, it looks like Mr. Lawyer falling off there. And maybe he was the one up front doing a lot of the work. Yep. JC pushing hard. Ron on his wheel. And now we switch to the main camera of Scott because, well, who cares what we're doing back there. Ron on the pedals. JC just smooth there. And there it looks like, is Ron going out to the front to do a little bit of help? Yes. And Scott does not come through. He must be gassed at this point. Third position, and tactically this is the right thing to do. But if you want a lot of work, you may want to be up front, but Scott has done the lion's share of those who are not JC at this point. Yeah, at this point, I was still like suffering, and you can see not in horrible company. And I was actually pleased that with the gravel bike, was able to at least be in some contact with some people. Yeah, and I feel Ilka's pain when she brings that. But I'll still say it, don't bring a knife to a gunfight. But it is the winter time. But I will say it is nice to be on the big tires. Railroad tracks, gravel, debris, whatever. You don't really think about that on the gravel bike. It's like having your own little security blanket, which, of course, I might get addicted to. So we'll see. But back to the action. Yeah, JC, he's just going hard here. 260-some watts. That's nowhere near his lactate threshold or FTP. So those people are just hoping that he's going to just tire out. But and now we see the wattage creep up, 400 watts, and now we're going for it. He's making his final push, and Scott is nicely tucked in here, and you can see like a 50-watt difference with Scott having to sit in, and JC smoothly over that machine, and it looks like he has a good chance to pull this one out. And Scott's just sitting there, 600 watts, and there you see it. Scott makes the final push, over 400, 500, 600 watts there for a second. And it looks like he is going to take this one. Well done tactically. Well done. I'm going to be looking for you, Scott, to be out there racing sometime, because this is good practice. And at some point, you want to go out and test your mettle. Nice job. Well done. And a good time was had by all. And you can see in the upper right, I have been dispatched by those in front of me. Still, my 30-second watch is not horrible, as I kind of chill, trying to recover for, the remaining part of the ride. But that was good. Yeah, I think I will have to bring the gravel bike out a few more times. It is kind of fun, a little extra training there. And what can I say? It's the winter time. It's tradition. Train heavy, race light. And with that, peace out, everyone. A good time was had by all.